Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. The Christmas edition of New Orleans Sports as we get ready for the Christmas holidays here in New Orleans and around the world. And of course, as always, we'll talk about all the great home teams. What has happened, transpired up to this point. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pels, all on tap. One of my favorite guests. I don't get him on much anymore because he's middays. I'm in the afternoon drive, and of course this show is normally on at 1 o'clock on a Thursday. But it's Gus Kattengell of ESPN 100.3, the Sports Hangover. Gus, how are you, buddy?
What's up, man? Looking good, man. That's why you have the ties. It's a theme tie. It's a holiday edition.
Yes, it is holiday. Yes. Yes, my wife insists that I love it. That I'm all into the holidays. But Gus, before we get started, again, in middays, talk a little bit about the show, and then of course you got a new gig now, which I think you're doing a great job with. Again, with the Pelicans as well. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, busy time for sure. So obviously still doing the Sports Hangover from 12 to 3. How many years now? 12. Right. It'll be 13 in January. Yeah. It's an easy sort of time to remember. It was January, the year the Saints went to the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So 2010 in January, thanks to you. So since then, I've been sticking around and doing that. So it's been fun in terms that it's been interesting to see how it's transitioned since we first started, Eric, right? I mean, when we first started, Larry Holden, myself, we're talking Saints going to the Super Bowl. Right. And now we're at the point, as crazy as it sounds, where most people rather talk Pelicans than New Orleans Saints right now, which is crazy, to where that's gone. So it's been an interesting ride, to say the least. But the Pels thing has been fun, man, doing pregame, halftime, postgame, and just being able to kind of see where the future goes with them.
Yeah, and look, it looks like a bright future for the Pels, and of course doing a great job. But one thing that's been constant with the Sports Hangover, that would be the smoker's cough.
Yes, the smoker's cough is still
the official shot of the Sports Hangover. I know that you have another gentleman that's working with you right now, the professor.
Yes.
Heard you guys talking the other day about smoker's cough, and he's trying to get another cocktail. You must let him know that, again, in order to be part of the program, he must do the smoker's cough.
It's initiation.
It is.
For people wondering what a smoker's cough is,
you don't want to have one.
It's a shot of Jägermeister with a dollop of mayonnaise. And I say dollop, and as you know, most of that time that we would do those shots, it's at a bar.
Right.
The mayo at bars are on tabletops, so it's warm.
Right, and then, of course that originated at Tracy's, right?
Yes.
And of course,
thanks to Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff, and of course going back.
Actually, Joe Cardosi.
Joe Cardosi,
who I see now more than my wife.
Right,
yes.
exactly. Now,
He's the producer for the Pelicans. Yes.
Right, everything comes full circle.
It's great.
From the old 690 in those days.
Yes.
Well, welcome back to the show. It's been a while. Saints 5-9. They're going to Cleveland. Looks like again there'll be very, very cold temperatures on Saturday for the game. They're in a three-way tie for second place, or a three-way tie for last place, depending on how you want to look at it. They've won the series versus the Falcons. They lost the series against Tampa. They are playing Carolina at the end of the season on January the 8th. Carolina leads that series now 1-0 for this season. 21-18 winners over the Falcons on Sunday. First of all, your thoughts on that particular game, and a game that the Saints look like they had in hand, but looks like they, at the end, as it's been this season, almost let it slip away.
Yeah, it's a snapshot of what this season has sort of been, Eric. And this season reminds me, it's only maybe, again, since I've started the show, but been covering the team for a while. And it's one of those shows, it's one of those seasons that it's so hard to explain, because it questions what it is that you do, right? When you go to practice and you look at it, it reminds me of the year we went to West Virginia. And everyone thought that team was a Super Bowl team, and they wanted to go 7-9, right? And it was terrible. They couldn't win games. They couldn't do that. We're sitting here this OTA, this offseason, this training camp, and it looks like a team that is, to me, going to win the NFC South. I don't see why they can't compete in the NFC.
I agree.
And everything that you see didn't materialize, right? The reason you probably went with this coaching staff was, well, you have veteran players that have playoff experience, essentially the same roster. You're adding new talent, like Olave and Alante Taylor. So you're just adding to it. You're bringing in guys that are veteran players in the backfield, like May, who was right there with Marcus Williams statistic-wise. This city went out on a full-out recruiting effort to get the Honey Badger. You're thinking he's going to bring something to it. And you're just thinking, hey, it's almost plug and play. You have captains, you have leaders on this team. They know what they have to do. And it just hasn't materialized. The opposite has actually happened. The players that have made plays this season have actually been the younger players, the players that have hurt you, that have turned the ball over, that have gone off sides, that haven't made the plays, that have dropped passes, are not only jersey sellers, but they're players that you depended on thinking that they were going to advance you to that next level. Then you have the whole quarterback situation, which just, it's baffling to me. And it's just, there's so many areas of this team where we could do an hour just on dysfunctionality, how this team isn't playing to their capability yet. It doesn't make sense. So, but that's what that game was. That's what that game was, right? Because your show, my show, everybody's show, everyone is talking about, hey, get the ball to Alvin Kamara. They did. 21 times on the ground. They only threw the ball to him twice. Still. Doesn't make any sense. You hear the coach on Monday say, well, the screen game, we have to see how the game plays. What are you talking about? Like, when the Saints were really doing well on offense, right? You might have heard of the guy, Pierre Thomas.
Pierre Thomas,
Yeah, so he ran the screen to perfection. I'm pretty sure that Sean Payton didn't wait to see how the game played out to decide to call a screen. As a matter of fact, the touchdown in Miami in the Super Bowl was what? A screen to Pierre Thomas. You think they're just waiting? No, it's part of the game plan. You know that that's a weapon. It's just, it's crazy when you look at that, but you look at that game, hey, Taysom Hill, you're going to use him. But he needs to throw the football. There's your bomb to Rashid Shaheed, but he never really sees the ball again later on. It's just crazy, because you're watching this game and they put up 14, don't score in the second. Put up 7, but don't score in the fourth. And there is no one, and I said this yesterday, Monday on the show, I said, do not at all call here and say you were confident when the Falcons had the football before Justin Evans, pushes that ball out. Because by the way, that was caught at the 36-yard line. 2:09 left, 3 timeouts. Atlanta football. That's the Saint 39. They're absolutely tying the game already if they don't get another yard, but they're all pro kicker.
Who's gonna?
Yeah, I mean, it's tied, right? But with 3 timeouts and 2:09, and you can't stop the run, they gave up 231 yards.
Right.
The Falcons could have just run the football to see if they score a touchdown and beat you.
Sure.
And do you have confidence and faith that this offense can run a 2-minute offense to even? No. It just that was a snapshot of this season. You know, it's a snapshot of the season. You see what they can do, and then you see why this team is not a good team.
I keep hearing the team has not quit on this coach.
Right.
I look at it maybe a little bit different. Maybe the team hasn't quit on itself. There's a lot of pride in that locker room, guys that won a lot of games.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if they were playing, I've never heard one player on this team, I said this the other day on the radio show, I haven't heard one player on this team say, I'm playing for Dennis Allen.
Yeah. I'm
playing for the coach. I'm playing for my position coach. You know, again, they deserve better. We haven't played well this year. It's not on them.
Sure.
Okay, no, I'm playing for them. I'm trying to save them. I haven't heard that. But again, when you say that the locker room is together, that they haven't lost the locker room, maybe they're playing for each other. You know, maybe again because they won a lot of games. That's why you haven't seen the dissension in the locker room. But they're still making the mistakes that were not tolerated with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And I think that's the disconnect there in a lot of cases, where again you had a disciplinarian, a guy that again was attention to detail. You do it right, or we run it again and again and again.
Right.
I heard you say on your radio show after one of the practices that again you were kind of baffled because they weren't they were making mistakes and they weren't running it again.
Yeah.
That was back in August.
That was Alvin Kamara saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. You look at this team right now, and again, it's been the self-inflicted wounds that have hurt this team, that have kept them from having a winning season and a possible playoff berth. But the disconnect to me is again the lack of I don't want to say influence, but the fact that this coaching staff has not found a way to motivate this team on a week-in, week-out basis.
It's interesting because energy, effort, motivation, desire. Those are things a lot of times media and fan, we always go to when a team either plays well or doesn't, right?
Sure.
High energy, things like that. Why can't you do those things? But I've heard you say it. And if you've followed sports and you've covered sports, you understand this. Coaching matters.
Sure it does.
I mean, coaching matters, right? I mean, you see the difference, we'll get to LSU, the coaching that Willie Fritz has been able to bring in leadership to the Tulane Green Wave. What Willie Green's done to the Pelicans. And to your point, there are things that I could jot down on a timeline, just draw a line and put dots, that you could, at the end of the season, come to a conclusion that this was a poorly led and inexperienced staff, which is, again, remarkable because it's a staff that's been together.
No doubt.
I mean, this isn't like a brand new staff that's getting together. First time that Pete Carmichael's called plays. He did when Sean was suspended. He was with Sean. And, I mean, you still have your co-defensive coordinators. That's from the same staff, under, down. It doesn't make any sense.
Makes no sense at all.
But to your point, you're watching at practice certain things, maybe, wait a minute, why is Tyrann Mathieu in the back? He's kind of best what Marcus May is doing at the line of scrimmage, moving around. And I brought that up in OTAs. I brought that up during training camp. He just doesn't look like he's right and fit here. And you've heard him this season say, hey, it's my job to try to fit into that defense. That doesn't make any sense. So that's just one perspective on that, because he hasn't been the player that everyone's liked.
I agree. And I don't think that's his fault. I think he's playing out of position.
Again, that's why I brought that up that way. It's easy to say he hasn't played well. Is that what you really want? Because there was a play in training camp. It's a slant, all right, from the far side, slanting in to Michael Thomas. Jameis hits him, but he's at full speed. And the last person that's going to be able to tackle him, because it's nothing but open field, is Matthew. And I'm like, he's getting run over. I mean, you say you're a good tackler. That's not something I want to routinely do in the NFL. That's what I'm saying.
That's not his strength.
Now, May is a little physical, but that's what I'm saying. So those are early warning signs, right? And then to your point, when Alvin Kamara's sitting here in October and he's saying, hey, it's time for, it's the old phrase, see something, say something. We're doing that for terrorism, not for Saints practice, but it's become that. When you hear him say that we, as captains, as players, had to bring it up, hey, that's not going to be excusable. at practice, false starts, the penalties, the turnovers. Apparently it's happening at practice and they're just overlooking it to the point where he had to come out and say, look, I have to say something, and I had to go to Dennis and talk about it. So it's to your point that I think it's a very good observation, because after the Tampa game, what did you hear Taysom Hill say going into this out of the bye? That we're professionals, that it's our job. Demario Davis, hey, we need to appreciate the fact that every time we can play, this is an honor, this is a gift. You're right. They kept mentioning after the bye that they're showing up to play for themselves, that they're NFL players, they're professional, and how they want to be viewed. That is a complete different thing than saying those things.
I'm playing for a coach who's in battle, a coach who again, might get fired at the end of the year, or my position coach who maybe, again, the coordinator who's maybe been a little bit schizophrenic in terms of his play calling. I mean, all those things.
The Tampa game, Eric, is the game. The Tampa game is the one where I came back on that next day and I said, it's hard in that locker room to not think your staff let you down. That's their job, to put you in position to succeed. And it was time and time and time and time again. And again, this isn't a personal thing, but I'm hearing after the game on Sunday, hey, we just did it just enough to win. It's the lack of aggressiveness to try to go win the game and a season and a division that you could have won. But when you have that mindset of, hey, let's just hold on and win it, how often do you win when you do that?
You don't. And again, that's the difference. That might be one of the fundamental differences between a Sean Payton-led team and a Dennis Allen-led team. He was going to be aggressive and go get it. Dennis Allen's playing it safe. And you can't play it safe in the NFL and win. When you look, it's funny. I think everybody was all in on continuity because the concept sounded right, right? Okay, bringing back the coaches. Dennis Allen's been around. Maybe he's learned something from Oakland. Again, he could be a better head coach. The players are going to buy in. And then, of course, his reliance on the captains to kind of police the locker room instead of, again, the discipline coming from the head coach and the coaching staff. It's funny. As a caveat, I even said this back then. I was wrong in 2012. When Peyton was suspended. And I said when we were at the old 690, they're going to be fine. Joe Vitt's going to be in charge, okay? They've got Drew Brees. They've got Jonathan Vilma. They've got all these captains. They've got a group that has been here and won Super Bowls. They're going to be fine. They're going to be able to get through this and make the playoffs and be a contending team without Sean Payton. How wrong I was, okay? How wrong I was. You fast forward now 10 years and they're in the same predicament. The same predicament. Sean's voice is not there, his motivation tactics, everything else, and it has cost this team. It really has. And look, hindsight's always 20/20, but there was a blueprint at one point that maybe this team could have looked at hard. And look at the media; we all jumped on board because it sounded right. Okay, it was a shock when he walked away, but it sounded right. The question is now, what will this organization do? Are they willing to be able to give him another year because of the history of this organization? Or are they willing to pull the Band-Aid off and say, you know what? We made a mistake. We did it with Van Gundy with the Pels. Look what happened there. Okay, we're going to find a new coach. We're going to go in a new direction. Again, Sean's not coming back, and this is the way we're going to go. Or are they going to sit with this another year? And then, Gus, look, I hear your phone calls on your show. Okay? Season ticket holders, Saints fans, this is not the Saints fans and season ticket holders of old. They will walk. They will spend their money elsewhere or buy the Sunday ticket rather than go see bad football.
They'll walk across the street.
Exactly.
I mean, this past Monday against the Bucs, even though it was a loss, was another sellout. The Pelicans have had more sellouts this season already than all of last year.
There you go.
So, now look. It's easy, right, for listeners and watchers to be like, hey, well, winning solves that. It is.
Sure.
But it's another thing, too. I think it's because one of the reasons people kind of fell in love organically with the Pelicans, and we'll get to them in a quick sec, is the fact that you saw them playing hard. You saw a coach that seemed competent to get in. That was a rookie coach. To the point. Look, I think what...
You saw the buy-in, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, there's two things that really have come to mind over the last couple of months that really hits you. it would sort of be like you establish your show, whether it's this television show or your radio show, and we always have guest hosts so we can take some time off and stuff. But there's reasons people tune in to it, right? And you've built your brand, your product, your name. In less than a calendar year, Sean walked away in February. And I remember the thing that he said the most that was remarkable to me was he talked about one of the first meetings he gave to his team when he first got here, he brought back up the Pittsburgh Steelers logo. You remember that part of his press conference in which he talked about that logo meant nothing until they started winning Super Bowls, and now you think it's a class organization and all that, but it's because of that. And I take that and then look at how the luster has been shined off of this franchise, not just the team, but franchise. Because to your point, when you don't play well and it looks like that, it's a cascade of things now, right? And that's the thing that this organization is going to have to really think about. Like, take your time. This isn't a day thing. Go away, come back and look at this with different eyes. Right. Because it affects free agency. You've had guys want to come here because what's the first thing they say? Winning organization, class organization. They take care of their players who do those things. Well, the other thing, great coaching. Well, those are two things right now that you have to at least pause. Right. Agreed. You have to pause. Absolutely. You don't know what your quarterback situation is. Now, whether you're an Andy Dalton fan or a Jameis Winston fan, the way it's been handled, at the very least, has to have you question what is going on over there.
And if we're questioning it, you don't think the locker room is?
Absolutely. Not just that. Again, I'm going to free agency. I'm going to, because that's going to be the fundamental biggest thing that you have to do in the offseason.
You got to sell this team.
Eric, there was no quarterback competition at the beginning of the year. That's what's baffling to me. If this was last year, where it was, hey, it's Jameis or Taysom Hill, one goes down, the other goes in, you get it, and he stays there. Well, there was a battle. There was not a discussion. It was never brought up. It was shot down. Andy Dalton said, I'm here to back up. So why aren't you using Jameis to see if he is the guy or not? Because clearly you've made that decision. And that's why he spoke about it in the locker room.
Of course he did.
So there is dissension on that. That was a guy that a lot of people backed up. But then you go back to a couple weeks earlier and guys like Kamara and stuff are going, well, this guy doesn't freak out. He handles the huddle. So, but if you don't have that right, you're already in trouble. So you have a lot of things in less than a calendar year, in 3 months' time of playing games, that have turned this franchise completely upside down. Not saying it can't get back to it, because I do think you still have talent.
I agree.
With the right leadership and the right coaching. I think you can back to being competitive. The division is laid out for you, Eric, that you're going to be able to win it again even next year, okay? Tampa's not going to be with Tom Brady. They're going to need a new quarterback. The Panthers likely will draft a new quarterback. I'm seeing Todd McShay's first mock draft. They got the Falcons going with Will Levis. So everyone's trying to find a quarterback and find out who they're going to be. That's why this offseason is absolutely crucial. Get it right. Do what you got to do, and you can still be a winning franchise. You can still win playoff games. You can still win the division. But you need a pause because it has not gone according to plan for reasons that you can point to.
I agree with you. I'll add one more to that. CD Deuce, the trading of him because of a contract situation, and players, again, don't like other players. They don't like guys' money being messed with, okay? Whether you agreed or disagreed with you during training camp, I think that's a factor. And then the fact that you couldn't figure out that he could play safety.
Okay, that's what I wanted to get to your point, to add to it, right? Whether you're handling that or not well, because in speaking to people I'm sure you have as well, as it got contentious.
It did.
When there was no money there, he was just yapping. There's video of Jameis Winston talking to him as they're going to practice to the Packers. He's mother bleeping people, his teammates. So, I mean, I get that. But that doesn't happen if the guy feels he's taken care of, and you know what he can bring. But the other thing was this. It's projection, and projecting what players can sort of do. Dennis is speaking this week about how hard it is to change players, but they took Malcolm Jenkins from corner to safety. How do you not project and see that this guy can be a safety? That's the thing that's baffling to me.
And how many safeties have you gone through?
I understand why you went for Alontae Taylor. They love, and again, it was a little shot this week.
It was.
When he talked about Taylor, he goes, he's coachable, he's everything we want, he listens to his coaches. He took a shot.
Right.
He absolutely, Dennis Allen,
he's
took
also
a shot
a
at
rookie.
CD. But that's my point. Your job, you've worked with people, I've worked with people. Sometimes our personalities don't mix, but can they be productive for you? You have to make it work. That's part of being a CEO, a coach, a manager, somebody that gets something to do. So if you project him to do that, he can be your safety. He would have been a lot cheaper than the other guys you actually wound up paying to do. And then you have Alontae Taylor as your nickelback. And I mean, that's the thing to me. That's the thing to me. Money's going to be money. People are going to be able to argue or not or come along to terms. The fact you didn't see that guy could be safety is crazy to me.
I would agree. And you're the defensive coordinator. Remember, the head coach is defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So you should have seen. You've had him for a few years.
Yeah.
You should have been able to see that. I would agree. That's why I think you just mentioned it. You need fresh eyes. Cosmetic changes don't work.
Yeah.
See, to me, keeping Allen and saying, okay, we're going to purge the coaching staff. Well, the coaching staff's going to get purged anyway. Because if Sean Payton gets a job, he's going to come in and cherry pick the ones he wants and leave the rest. So let's say you get rid of your offensive coordinator. Maybe you go with one defensive coordinator. Whatever you're going to do. I don't think that solves the issue at this point. And I also don't think it gives the fan base the faith that they can turn it around with Dennis Allen as head coach.
So the absolute fundamental thing you have to figure out, who's your quarterback?
Absolutely.
And to your point, who is making that decision? Is it Mickey Loomis?
Right.
Is it a handful of gentlemen?
Right.
Is it the scouts?
Right.
Is it Ireland?
Jeff Ireland? Right.
Yeah. Are you trusting Dennis Allen? Right, let's say we go with let's go get you an offensive coordinator that has experience or is up and coming or is that guy got Sean McVay coffee, whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
And you focus on defense, Dennis. Well, how much influence is he going to have on picking that individual? He's going to have to work with them, right?
Right.
So does he know? I mean, is he making that decision? I'm sure he'll be in the interview process.
Right.
You're just already starting to talk about a different dynamic, which is why I'm saying this isn't a personal thing. And it's not that I don't think Dennis Allen's a good coach, that he's not fiery. I think he is. Certain people are different personalities.
Absolutely.
And he's a great defensive coordinator.
And everybody likes him.
And I agree with you.
Everybody likes him.
But it's the sort of the substitute teacher thing
That's
happens.
exactly what it is.
But the thing is, when you have this roster and where it is, if you're going to go in that direction, you have to figure out who your quarterback is.
That's right.
Okay? You're going to bring back Andy Dalton or Jameis, whoever it is, next year to start while you draft. Right. Well, clearly, the way you've done it, you're bringing him back.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So he's the guy who's going to start for you next year. The draft pick that you're going to get at some point, first or second round. Work on it,
right?
Okay, and that's fine. And then you go, maybe you do what Pittsburgh did. We eventually pull the plug, go with Pickett, right? Or you do what some of the other teams do. You wait for a little bit, but at some point, the Falcons just did it with Ritter. Right. At some point, your draft pick does it, but that makes sense. But my point is, who is evaluating that? Right. Who's making that call? Who's going to evaluate the kind of quarterback you're going to have? And here's the problem: if you keep Dennis Allen as the head coach. You have to go find an offensive coordinator. What is your philosophy? Right. What kind of quarterback are you getting? Now, you can do that in the next 3 months after the end of the season before April. But those are fundamental things that you have to decide, because the type of quarterback you draft or hope to get is going to determine what kind of players you get on that offense and things of that nature moving forward and all. So it's a big decision. So at that point, I'm just thinking, go ahead and give it to an offensive-minded person. And then we move forward.
How do you attract the best coaches if you've got a coach who's on a hot seat? I mean, who's leaving a job to come to New Orleans to be offensive defensive coordinator in a new Dennis Allen staff if, again, he loses the first 5 games of next year and they got to pull the plug on him?
Carolina comes to mind. What did we see in Carolina? We saw a man get desperate by the week, by the month, by the season.
And
he blamed everybody. He fired Joe Brady. He fired, and then eventually ran out of people to fire. And you saw how disrespected he was in that locker room and how hard they're playing for Steve Wilkes. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing to kind of look at. And again, I'm not saying that's that situation
I think
here,
he's liked.
but it can be because at the end of the day, you want to keep your job.
Right.
So as it gets tighter and they start maybe 1-2 or 0-1 or 0-2 next year, it's just going to be different. And then how you go about your business. And I think that's something to keep an eye on more than anything else, man. But the Joe Brady thing is something that's interesting too. I thought about it and talked about it a bit on the show as well. He's the quarterback's coach at Buffalo. He's a guy that has said he somewhat needed that reset, get some fresh eyes on them. The OC over there may be somebody a lot of people could be looking at for Buffalo as well. But if they go the cosmetic route, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see a guy like Brady come in, here are the keys to the offense, I'm going to do the – but there's seniority, right? Like Joe's not going to come here and be like, I'm somewhat the coach, I run the offense. So if they keep Dennis Allen and say, we're going to get you an offensive coordinator, it's going to be somebody like that.
See, I don't want to see this franchise and those that are the decision makers have their judgment clouded by what happens in the last 4 games of the season. Right. Because I think the die has been cast in the season of its entirety, and not what they do in the last 4 games.
100%.
Okay, and I think that could be a real issue going forward, because it's a bad division. Yeah. And this is but yet this is a team that has talent. Yeah. But they haven't got enough. And then the young players that have emerged this year on top of the talent. See, I think with the right motivation, with the right coach, and finding a quarterback, right, which is a key. But again, even if it's a bridge guy, that they can get back very quickly. Okay, I don't think this is a thing where I say pressure wash, blow up. The salary cap constricts you on that. Okay, right. There are some players you just can't bring back. Okay, but then I think the nucleus can still win. 100%. I mean, look, Juwan Johnson's played very well at tight end. There's no need I need to go get a $60 million tight end or something of that nature. Olave's been incredible. Again, they seem to find receivers like Shaheed, and he solves your returner problem on that nature. The other thing, Eric, though, that Mike White, Brock Purdy, when you just look at them this season, coaching matters. Absolutely. I mean, because they have taken guys that you don't know. And they're legends. I mean, you have an entire locker room in New York that's wearing Mike White T-shirts over Zach Wilson, the number 2 pick overall. Then you have in San Francisco a guy that just run the offense, and he looks calm and collected. He's been coached well. Why? Kyle Shanahan is good. Absolutely. But that's my point. That's what you're getting at. You bring in somebody that understands concept, philosophy, offense. I don't want to hear that I'm going to wait to see how the game plays out before I throw it to Alvin Kamara. Come on. The guy scored 6 touchdowns in the game. Right. And how many has he got this year? Not even 6. They called the play in Tampa, Eric, where the fullback was the primary weapon. And Andy checked out of that to go with, bless his heart, Marquez, Callaway. Bless his heart. But on the sideline are 3 jersey sellers. You got Landry, Olave, and Kamara watching. Well, his helmet was off, and then call a timeout. It's just, it's not difficult. It really isn't. It isn't. And that's one of the reasons why, again, with all due respect to Dennis Allen. Okay? I should have stepped in. Well, you have the button, dude. It's right on your belt, right here. That wouldn't have gone with any other coach in the NFL. They'd have stopped right then and there. No, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, wait, where's 41? Hold on, time out. Exactly. That's why, and again, that's one of the reasons why, again, don't allow the last 4 games, no matter what happens, to be fool's gold here. Look at the big picture. And the big picture is it just hasn't worked. So if continuity hasn't worked, do what you did with the Pels, cut bait, move in another direction, 100%. And find the next Sean Payton. Gus Kattengell's our guest, 100.3 ESPN here in New Orleans. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk Pelicans, Tulane, and LSU all on tap for us. You're watching the Christmas edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Experiencing rough weather with a bad roof can be a nightmare. It doesn't have to be.
Suburban Roofing, because when it comes to roofing, there is a difference.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Gus Kattengell is our guest. We turn to the Pelicans, who are 18-12 now on a 4-game losing streak. They've now dropped to the fourth position within the West. They're in second place in the Southwest behind Memphis. 6-4 in their last 10. Look, it's not because they're not playing hard. Again, I think that they're playing smart at times. They've just been physically beat in a lot of cases on the boards, turnovers, which again are not smart plays. 3-point shooting has been an issue. But to me, the biggest issue when you're playing the upper echelon teams in the NBA is not having your other all-star. And Brandon Ingram, again, who we all love, who again, when he's on the court, is one of the best players on this team, one of the best players in the NBA, has missed too much time. The toe has already been cleared with a scan, and again, the narrative that we hear is he doesn't play unless he's 100%. Well, it's the NBA. You'll never be 100% in a season, and somehow, some way, he's got to figure out again that what his lack of presence on the court is meaning to this team. So just in spacing, the way teams play Zion, I mean, there's a domino effect when your second all-star is not on the floor.
So I think when you go back to the beginning of the season to now, too, as well, and C.J. McCollum said it after the loss on Monday, they've only played 10 games together.
Yes.
C.J., Brandon, Zion.
Right.
10 out of 30.
Right.
So you go into the game tonight against the Spurs, and when you look at that, the fact that you had gotten to number one is why I was having fun with it, right? I kept giving the timestamp and saying still in first place, because it is an accomplishment.
It absolutely is.
Because it allows you to have moments like you're going right now, 4-game losing streak, going through injuries and stuff. I think you can sustain for a bit, Eric, losing a starter with how deep this team is. The problem you're seeing is my bench, my depth has had to play starter minutes. Now I'm depending on them. I'm not happy when Alvarado hits 4 or 5 threes. I'm not happy when Trey Murphy is hitting 4 or 5 threes. I need it.
Right.
Needing and being happy with Larry Nance 20 points, Najee with 17. That's great. When you need it, it's a little different.
Right.
And what you're starting to see is, now through 30 games, Zion is a guy that has everybody's attention. He's an MVP candidate. There's no doubt about it. He's had moments this season where he's taken over a game. But again, you're seeing teams going, you're not going to beat us. And the thing is, he's beating you not just by his scoring, but he's a facilitator. And that's the problem. And it's not a bad thing, right? Because some nights when he does dish the ball, I love his unselfishness. Trey's going to hit him. Larry's going to hit him. Najee's going to hit him. Devontae's going to hit him. Jose's going to hit him. When they don't, though, it's trouble. You blow 24-point leads. You blow 15-point leads. It's hard for you to overcome those things. And when you play championship caliber teams, they're championship caliber teams for a reason. They're either really good on the offensive end, or you saw with Milwaukee.
Yes.
You have a 7-foot rim protector, Brook Lopez, who dropped 30.
Yeah.
Can shoot the 3.
Right.
You saw Giannis, who legitimately is a Greek freak, got calls, did all that. But there's a reason. He's a defensive MVP. I mean, he's a defensive player of the year. He's a 2-time MVP and a world champion. And he can hit free throws now. Saw Drew Holiday. We saw it for seasons on what he did, and he put the clamps on Zion. But that's the problem. You don't have anybody else. And CJ had a big night.
Oh, he did, absolutely.
But you have to have other players that can do that. And that you're seeing against Utah and against Milwaukee, not having that other person that can score, it taxes Zion. It makes it easier for teams to defend. And again, you're now asking, I mean, Jose had no points. A guy's capable of putting 30, 20.
Right.
He had no points. He was 0 for 6 from the field. So that's why you need him.
Right.
And it's over 21 days. I mean, you need that guy back on. The good thing about it is you built up enough lead with. You're still there. You're not looking up to try to get to 10.
For those that don't know, December, again, he hurt his toe on November the 25th. Again, he missed all of the games so far in December. 11 games over a 3-week period. We're now going on the 4th week, and that is too long. It is too long. He needs to get back on the court because again, he is one of the few players on this team that can create his own shot.
Right.
He doesn't need someone to create a shot for him. He can create his own shot. And then there's the other thing. The way teams are playing Zion right now, where again they're putting up the wall.
A wall.
You can't put up a wall if you have C.J. McCollum and Brandon Ingram and maybe again another shooter on the floor.
Right.
You have to respect that.
100%.
And you have to, and again, you're not getting that now because he's not available.
Yeah, and I think the thing that really, I would say raised an eyebrow, but you're like, oh, okay. Because obviously, suffering the setback that he had. I mean, look, Willie on Monday said it's a week-to-week thing now. Week-to-week.
Week to week.
Yeah.
Not day to day.
Yeah, week to week. Well, there's only 2 weeks left in December, so we're looking at January.
Right, and a lot of this is supposed pain tolerance.
You know, so again, that's the thing. I mean, you're looking now. Again, I understand, like C.J. McCollum said on Monday, you want his health is first and foremost.
Absolutely.
You want to make the run. You get it, and you try.
And
to
this medical staff has done that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been overcautious at times.
This staff is one of those staffs.
Right.
Yes.
No doubt.
They will make sure upon sure to bring back.
But Gus, when they come out and say publicly the scans are clear,
I know. Like I said, I get it.
That's a red flag to me.
The thing that you can focus on as well. Look, you can only control what you can control.
Right.
And I think the thing is, when you look at the 4-game losing streak, there are controllables, if that makes any sense. And that's the difference between a year ago from now, where you're losing and you don't have the scoring. Because it was the case. If Brandon Ingram didn't play, that's an L.
Yes.
No one could score.
Right.
That's not the case. No one is going Kendrick Perkins, right, saying move the franchise and do that. Actually, even after they lost 2 straight on Greenberg on the morning earlier in the week, Jay Williams was still saying the Pelicans are his favorite to win the West. That's losing game.
Right.
So, but the controllables are rebounding, which has cost them offensive rebounding.
Absolutely.
Turnovers, which has absolutely cost them.
Right.
And, just defense overall.
Right.
Not playing to their capability of defending.
Right.
Those things travel, right? Like in football, defense and running games, they travel.
Yes.
It's the same thing in the NBA. Why they got to the play-in, why they won the 2 play-in games, why they gave Phoenix fits, defense.
Yes.
And obviously Brandon Ingram and CJ played well, but it was defense.
Right.
It was their hustle and effort and energy.
Absolutely.
So you can point to that, and I love hearing after games, even though it's a loss, from CJ McCollum, Zion in particular, talking specifically about communication. Jonas is doing this. I need to do that. I need to be better. Those are things that are fixable. I can grab the iPad on the flight. I can sit in the film room at the facility, go do with the laser pointer. That's easily corrected, as opposed to I don't have the horses, I don't have the height, I don't have the size. So they're going to get back to it. And again, it's this year's in the NBA, though, man. I mean, Milwaukee got drummed, earlier
it's
in the
game season.
last week. Right. I mean,
I'm not concerned, but I've got to be honest with you, he's got to get back on the court. And there has to be a situation where you're willing to play through pain. And again, we don't know the pain tolerance. I'm not Brandon Ingram, okay? But again, we've seen Alvarado play with a bruised rib, okay, and tough it out. Again, I get it. It's December. It's not April. But when you get up against the top teams in the NBA, you need both of your all-stars. You need them on the floor. And that's my biggest gripe right now. Other than that, again, yes, they need to work on all the things you've spoken about. Yeah. But those are things that are fixable.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fixable.
Yeah. And the good thing about it is, too, in this losing streak, you're facing teams that are formidable.
Absolutely.
Right? And people are like, well, what about Utah?
Utah's a bad matchup.
Well, Utah has, again, if you follow basketball, the reason that slippage from when you first met him is because you had a lot of injuries.
Right.
That game against the Pels in game 1 was the first time all of their starters was healthy again.
Right.
But Marketing, those other guys, they're almost 7 feet tall. They can all shoot the three. They can all drive. They can all rebound.
Right.
You understand that Danny Ainge is that you're seeing what they're doing there. Phoenix was the #1 seed last year. They're good. Devin Booker dropped 58 points.
And you just got to tip the cap.
And that's what I was saying. You lost by 4. And that guy needed 58 points. You got no calls whatsoever.
Right.
I mean,
which is another issue.
And you blew a lead in that game that you should have won.
Right.
You were up by 50. So and then 24. So I mean, you can't get panicky. I mean, you should have control. You should have won that game.
Yes, absolutely.
And in Milwaukee, they're a championship caliber.
Right.
They just won the finals a year ago, and you can see why.
Yep.
You can see why.
Yes, no doubt about it. Nobody's panicking here.
Sure.
It's a 4-game losing streak. They will turn it around. More worried about April than we are December. We're just pointing out again that in order for this team to be successful, both their all-stars need to be on the floor against the elite teams of the NBA. Let's shift gears to Tulane as they prepare for USC in the Cotton Bowl. First of all, really great news that we've heard over the last 48 hours. Michael Pratt, Sincere Haynesworth coming back. Sincere Haynesworth, the center, but more importantly, Michael Pratt. I talked about it on the radio show. I've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. Got really good information from insiders within Tulane that Pratt was as good as gone. He was going to the University of Florida. He was going to play his last year in the SEC, and that again, Tulane had to do something with NIL money to curtail that. Obviously, that did happen. Give me your thoughts.
Surprised, to be honest with you. And you and I were talking a little bit about it earlier in that I think Michael Pratt does have some things that some NFL teams will take a look at.
I agree with you.
He has made some NFL throws. I've caught myself whether I was on the sideline earlier on with him or watching recently in games and going, that's an NFL throw. He has a toughness in the grit about him that you absolutely like.
And he's mobile.
I was going to get that next. In today's NFL, I don't need you to be Lamar Jackson.
No.
I need you to extend the play, get a tough first down. Josh Allen's a perfect example. I don't think of Josh Allen as a running quarterback. He's a thrower. He's got a cannon. But almost to his detriment, he runs around too much. But how many times has he won games because of that? You know, and done those things. And there's just something about that guy. Like, I joked a lot last year. In a season, they won 2 games. Every time I'd have Corey Glore on or talk to Maddie, I'm like, what body part is bleeding this week?
Sure.
I mean, every game the guy was bleeding.
There's a guy that plays through injury.
Yes. Well, it brought to the point, though, that they needed to protect him. And they did. What have you seen? Guys made plays.
Oh, yeah.
So he has good football IQ. I mean, I get it. I mean, if I'm Billy Napier, that's one of the things you absolutely need with Anthony Richardson gone. And it makes perfect sense. And I am surprised. And I don't mean that in a bad way because – again, in this day and age, you have to think about yourself to an extent, and it is absolutely fine to do so. Because to me, playing in a Power 5 school, maybe being able to be good, getting those eyes that you're just going to get, and playing against that competition, if he does well, Eric, that goes from a Saturday pick to a Friday pick, and a second, third rounder, and that puts you in a position to maybe eventually be a starter in the NFL. So that would matter because you've won at the highest level Tulane's been. Like, you're the legend, you're good. I don't think anybody would have looked at him in a bad way from this standpoint. 2 commas, maybe $1 million plus in money that, you know, again, if you're a Saturday pick, that's not guaranteed. So to be able to get a little money in your bank account, to be able to maybe help your draft status next year and play with SEC level players, and that's not ripping Tulane. You got to get there. You got to continue to grow and do that. Be happy with that. I'm not saying anything about that, but you get a chance to go start over there. I am surprised by that. I heard Notre Dame was another team.
No, it was another team.
Yeah, I mean, you can't compete with that. But it also tells you, though, what he thinks about this place.
And Willie Fritz.
That's what I was going to go into next, because he, like Michael Pratt, had chances. And at the end of the day, the money wasn't enough, if it makes any sense. And a lot of times in this world, money is enough. You know, but is it enough to outweigh, I think, maybe some things on the ledger that they do love? I think they love this place. They love, you know, being able to build your legacy. And it's almost to the point where we talked about with Anthony Davis, right? I mean, and LeBron even. You know, you go into a place that already has multiple banners, athletes. This is their chance to really solidify one of the greatest to ever play that position there, the winningest, the record books, the statue's already going to get built for Willie. I mean, like, you're establishing yourself as the guy.
Right.
You know, the graph's already said Willie Fritz is the best coach Tulane football's ever had.
I don't disagree.
So imagine you back that up next year with another championship and do that again. Michael Pratt will then be considered one of the best, if not the best quarterback to have ever played. So you're cementing legacies as well. So it's interesting. But I'm proud of him. I mean,
me too. I'm shocked. On both.
I am surprised.
I'm shocked on both because, again, normally when a big school comes, even though it is they're kind of a bottom feeder in the Atlantic Coast Conference, Georgia Tech twice the budget in terms of athletics, twice the budget in terms of football, the facilities, everything else. If I understand, Willie Fritz was promised, but again, it's a long-term deal in terms of facilities, etc. So again, he's staying because of his team and didn't want to walk away from that. As far as Pratt goes, you're good enough, they're going to find you in the NFL. Doesn't matter where you're playing. Okay, and I think he's proven he's an NFL caliber quarterback.
Did Tennessee Titans select that quarterback?
Right. Come on.
Played Liberty.
Right, exactly. And let me tell you something. New Orleans Saints, guy's right here, okay? I'm not saying he's the next New Orleans Saint quarterback, but it's a guy that
It's interesting you say that because I absolutely would take a chance.
I would too.
On a Friday or Saturday.
I definitely
would. Jaden Daniels comes out.
Right.
I love what he's been able to do.
Because of the mobility.
And the growth.
Right.
The thing with both of these quarterbacks is the composure.
Right.
In time. You know, when it tightens, they don't.
Yes. Troy Dana, gave him a lot of credit. He said this on 4th Down 4 this week, that again, which I said on the radio show, and I'm sure you did as well, you can't wait until the end of the season when you see your coach and your team playing well, because you know the big boys are coming after you. So again, they had already had a plan in place for Willie Fritz before Georgia Tech came coming, and they put that in place. The other part of this is, what a big stage for the Cotton Bowl.
Absolutely.
Against USC for this program, and the possibility of winning there. Look, that's a big team. I think it really comes down to one thing, and that's if Caleb Williams plays or not. If Caleb Williams plays, it's going to be difficult for them to win. If he doesn't, Tulane can beat this team.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb Williams is really good.
Yes.
he's incredible. And you saw the difference in that game in the Pac-12 championship. When he got injured, game changed.
Right.
Period. I mean, the game changed. I mean, he had won the Heisman the week before with that run that he had. He's incredible when you look at it from that perspective. And it's interesting because I was talking about earlier this week about bowl games and how do you view them. You know, there's a ton. Some matter, some don't. On Tuesdays, I like to have a lot of coaches on our show. Having Will Hall during the season, it's important for Southern Miss to get back to 6 wins, go bowling, show that there's winning, right? For Tulane, it was, hey, 6 wins was the mark. That was the goal.
Right.
Then after you do that a couple of times, they said it this year. We want to win a conference championship. And if you want to continue that trajectory, I just go back to I think it was, the Chick-fil-A Bowl or Capital One. It's the one in Atlanta where Clemson beat LSU.
Yeah.
The Tigers didn't want to be there.
No.
Like, it was documented for Clemson, and I can still remember the near sideline video of Dabo Swinney jumping up and down, the entire Clemson Tiger team going bananas when they won the game.
Right.
Because they had beaten an SEC team.
Exactly.
Because they're now moving. They wanted to be contenders, and now it's funny when you look at it and go, Clemson is one of those names you think of.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's one of those programs. That's what Willie Fritz wants to do. So for USC, it's the Cotton Bowl.
Right.
It's not the championship. It's not the playoff.
It's not the Rose Bowl.
No, I mean, and that's fine because that's where USC is.
That's right.
But for Tulane,
it's huge.
Absolutely. It's another thing you can go recruit with. And Eric, 2 years from now, and it's one of the things why I thought that Willie would be hard to press to leave, and why Tulane's going to be a great job moving forward. Because the conference is losing 3 really good schools and teams.
True.
Makes you a little easier to, and again, I'm not saying you've got to go win them.
Right.
But you're now going to be year in and year out, Eric, one of the teams, 1-2 teams that you should win the American Athletic Conference.
There's no doubt.
And if you win the American Athletic Conference in 2024, you will be in the college football playoff.
I agree with you. Let's go to LSU, 9-4, 6-2. They're in the Citrus Bowl against Purdue. Just talk about this season and the foundation year that Kelly has brought.
Remarkable. The first 2 things that pop in mind is the fact that, a year ago, what you would have 32 scholarship players or something like that.
39 scholarship players, 12 in the portal, 15 signees in the 2022 class.
There you go. And you desperately needed the portal. This year's you're kind of relaxed a little bit here. And again, we were talking about earlier to start the show, how in one calendar year you can change perception with the Saints.
Yes.
Look at the other side with LSU. You not only show that you have growth, that this guy can coach.
Yes.
You saw in game during the season. It's right there.
Right. Adjustments.
Slow struggles, slow starts. As the season got to the middle part, this team got better. They didn't have them. Next thing you know, against Florida, then you're seeing this team go, oh man, it's the same team.
Right.
It's the same guys.
Right.
It's the same team where you had back-to-back weeks of player-only locker room meetings and things that he didn't freak out, and that team bought in. And he brought in a different culture and more accountability. And it goes back to what we're saying, Eric. My way or the highway.
Right.
Right? Some players, great, there it is.
Right.
And he said it. I'll never forget the bite I played. And he goes, maybe LSU isn't for you.
Right.
But think about that phrase, to be able to say that. Well, maybe this place isn't for you. Because I just challenged you by saying that. When I say, well, maybe this business isn't for you. It's you. You're the one that do it. I know what I'm doing, but you're not. So he's changed the perception to where now he has a top 5 class.
Right.
He's getting all kinds of really good players to do. And then, I mean, you have the coup d'etat.
Right.
At home, all your recruits, you beat Alabama.
Yeah.
And you beat Alabama in a way that shows, I'm going to trust you.
Right.
His speech in the locker room, that simple phrase, I'm going to put the game in your hands. As opposed to Tampa Bay.
Right.
I mean, I'm just saying.
Accountability, discipline, all those things.
Dude, the day after the Tampa loss, I played that bite.
Right.
I played Brian Kelly on my show saying, I'm going for the win. I'm going to go do that as opposed to, let's just hope we win this game. I mean, it's a big difference. And that gets players to want to go. The NIL thing, it takes care of itself. You have all the eyes. So it's incredible what he's done in a year. It's not even a calendar year.
No, it hasn't been in a year. And you already look at it now. 19 players in the transfer portal. They have the ability now to pick and choose who they want to come to LSU. Their class, as you mentioned, is going to be a top 5. What was it? Anderson, the kid from Carr, transfers over to LSU now. They lose Cam Wire. Where's he go? Tulane. Okay, so again, a plus for Tulane. But again, Wire's an SEC player, but he's going to Tulane. But but LSU's getting so much better that a guy like Wire might not be able to play consistently there. 100%. That shows you the program is being elevated as well. Got 30 seconds. Purdue, LSU. Who do you like?
I like LSU simply because it's not the same Purdue team from the regular season.
It's kind of like last year's Texas
coach, quarterback, tight end, cornerback, or receiver. I mean, the Tigers going to do well.
Yeah, and they need it. With the 2 losses at the end of the season, this will be a good reset for them going into next season as well. I believe they open up against Florida State in Orlando next year as well. Gus, thanks so much for joining us as always. One more time, tell the folks about your show and also about what you're doing with the Pels.
Always a pleasure, man. 12 to 3 on ESPN New Orleans, the Sports Hangover, and then pre-game, halftime, post-game for the Pelicans Radio Network.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you and your family.
Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year.
And Happy New Year to you as well. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, so many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen that'll take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube page, also to my website. The shows are there. All shows are on both. Also, again, you can check us out on all the rebroadcasts. Pick your favorite rebroadcast that's on your screen now. Set your DVR. Make sure you check out our program each and every week. Also, catch me on the radio. It is 4 to 6 weekdays on 106.1 FM. Also, you can listen live at ericasher.com. Also, again, the TuneIn Radio app, the iHeartRadio app, our digital platforms. Anchor is our home base for our podcast, but our podcast is everywhere. Search Inside New Orleans Show with Eric Asher. You'll find that as well. Again, special thanks to Gus Kattengell for joining us for the program. Also, again, special thanks to our underwriters who make this program possible, each and every one of them. Thank you for supporting those underwriters. Thanks for those underwriters supporting our program. And also to the WLA production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Logan Graffia, Alex Chacon, and the best director on the planet. It is William Hill. Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Happy holidays. And we'll see you next week for, again, the New Year's edition of Inside New Orleans Sports with Arnie Filko, talking a little bit different stuff about, again, the future of sports here in New Orleans. For Gus Kattengell, I'm Eric Asher. Merry Christmas. See you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.